Hey, I'm Joe DePete. I'm the first Vice President of the Airline Pilots Association, and I'm the National Safety Coordinator, and I'm damn proud to be here today. All right? I fly, I'm going to say the name, I fly for FedEx, and as a National Safety Coordinator, I oversee all ALPA's safety, security, and pilot assistance activities, and I'm pleased to be facilitating this event today. We have an excellent program in store for you. I'm sure you'll agree as you see and you look at your agendas. We have a number of speakers and guests with us throughout aviation security, with the airlines, the industry, federal agencies, and the DoD. Their bios are included in the conference materials, so we'll direct you to those rather than taking the time during our panels. There are many challenges, as you know, in aviation security, and working together in a collaborative environment is how we made such great strides in aviation security, but we have a long way to go. Today's discussions underscore the importance of those collaborative relationships to meet current and future challenges as we continue to improve on aviation security every day. You should have an agenda in front of you, and if you'd like to refer to that, I'll briefly review some of our plans, and in a few minutes, I'll introduce ALPA's President, Captain Tim Canoll, who you just met. Tim will present, and then we'll move on to the morning keynote. Now, following the keynote address, we have 4 panels designed to explore current aviation security initiatives that may be required to meet security challenges in the future. Now, the first panel is on emerging threats associated with unmanned aircraft systems, UAS, and how to protect aviation's critical infrastructure and maintain the safe integration of UAS in the national airspace system. We will take a networking break then and introduce our second panel, which will discuss issues on ways to enhance airport security for cargo airline operations. I don't have to tell you, but cargo airlines fly the same aircraft, take off from the same airports, utilize the same airspace, and fly over the same cities as passenger aircraft, and have the same types of security needs. After that, we'll enjoy lunch together right here, and we'll make it a working lunch with keynote speaker, Deputy Director John Mulligan of the National Counterterrorism Center. Deputy Director Mulligan will speak about the mission and role of the NCTC and their security concerns in keeping America safe. Afterwards, the third panel of the day will discuss the future vision for the Federal Flight Deck Duty Officer Program. The United States gains great benefits from the willingness of airline pilots to make significant personal sacrifices to ensure the security of a critical component of the nation's transportation infrastructure. The future of this essential program, I am happy to announce, is bright, and we look forward to hearing about its positive direction. Then, after the third panel, we'll hear from our afternoon keynote speaker, Congressman John Katko, who chairs the Transportation Security Subcommittee of the U.S. House of Representatives Homeland Security Committee. After a final networking break, the last panel will address cybersecurity concerns in today's aviation environment, which is a growing issue for every aspect of operations in the national airspace system. Now, folks, we want to make this an interactive conference, and we welcome and encourage audience participation. And to that end, we'll set aside time at the end of each panel for you to be able to ask questions. And then we'll have some microphones around the room for you to be able to do that. For those who may not feel comfortable speaking in front of an audience, or those joining us on the webcast, you can text your questions to 703-594-6660. And do we have that number available to everybody, Tina, out here? Okay, great. Okay, we would very much value your feedback as well after today's conference, so when you have time, please fill out an evaluation form. It's in front of you. Thank you all so very much. So let's get started. Captain Tim Canoll is the 10th president of the Airline Pilots Association International, which represents more than 55,000 professional airline pilots who fly for now, as of lately, 32 airlines in the United States and Canada. And it is the largest non-governmental aviation safety organization in the world. He was elected to office in October 22nd, 2014, and he began his 4-year term on January the 1st of 2015. Please join me in welcoming Captain Tim Canoll.
Thanks, Joe, for that introduction. I really appreciate it, and thanks to all of you for being here today. 2017 ALPA Aviation Security Conference. As it turns out, the timing of this conference could not have been better due to all that's going on with respect to terrorism and airline security. But I'd like to start with a little prologue. In the wake of the 9/11 attacks on the United States, ALPA pilots turned tragedy into action by immediately helping to lead the Department of Transportation's Airport and Aircraft Security Rapid Response Team. The team forged and submitted security recommendations to the U.S. Department of Transportation less than 2 weeks after that terrible day. In Canada, ALPA called for bringing air marshals on board aircraft in the wake of those attacks. Canada did so by putting in place the Canadian Air Carrier Protective Program, which includes Royal Canadian Mounted Police Aircraft Protective Officers, some of whom are with us here today. Thank you for coming. But ALPA's dedicated response to the 9/11 attacks was no one-off. For more than 85 years, our pilots have demonstrated a deep appreciation for the essential nature of air transportation security and the need for constant vigilance and innovation to advance it in face of an ever-changing threat. We understand that security of the North American airline industry is indeed our nation's security. For example, as early as 1961, ALPA took a stand against the threat posed by terrorist action aboard aircraft by urging then-President Kennedy to sign legislation that made aircraft hijacking a federal crime. In 1972, ALPA demanded that President Nixon require the implementation of physical passenger screening, which he did by legislation in 1974. As part of the association's push for enhanced security following the 9/11 attacks, our union's advocacy led to the Arming Pilots Against Terrorism Act, which established a program to select, train, and equip pilots as federal flight deck officers. Now, we're going to hear more about the FFDO program later today, as Joe mentioned. ALPA also played a pivotal role in pushing for the installation of reinforced cockpit doors on U.S. and Canadian airliners, and the revising of anti-hijacking procedures, also known as the Common Strategy. ALPA also helped establish the very successful Known Crew Member Program, TSA's first risk-based security initiative, which provides enhanced security screening for airline crew members in partnership with the Airlines for America and TSA. The Known Crew Member Program has provided more than 65 million screenings since its risk-based security screening of crew members began in 2008. 59 airlines now use the system, and nearly 400,000 screenings are conducted at a total of 160 checkpoints each week at 73 different airports. Success story. Whether past or present, our union regards aviation security as national security, both in the United States and Canada. In 2017, we're working harder than ever to advance aviation security. In February, for example, ALPA joined Canada's Minister of Transport, the Honourable Marc Canoll, at a news conference marking the National Aviation Day in Canada. We use the opportunity to urge Canadians to reach out to law enforcement if they witness someone pointing a laser at an aircraft. The illegal use of lasers is just one example of the many technological threats that airline industry confronts every single day. Unmanned aircraft systems are another evolving technology that poses significant risk to the aviation community. We know from the FAA's recently released 2016 data that UASs are more often encountered in environments that are far too close to our aircraft that are carrying passenger and cargo. From a drone reported at the same altitude as a Boeing 777 on a 5-mile final to San Francisco International Airport, to a near mid-air collision reported by an airline pilot on a 6-mile final at New York's LaGuardia Airport, these incidents are happening more and more frequently. While flying remains extremely safe, the odds are increasingly working against us. In the past, aircraft accidents have helped spur the development and implementation of new technologies for our industry. We can't let this be the case with UAS. The aftermath, the aftermath of Delta 191, for example, an accident that occurred in 1985 when the flight encountered a microburst on approach to Dallas, resulted in the development of onboard radar, which helps us avoid wind shear. Likewise, in 1986, when Aeromexico DC-9 on approach to Los Angeles crashed after colliding with a general aviation aircraft, the government began efforts to require all airlines be equipped with collision avoidance systems. We have too many examples of how tragedy has spurred the development and implementation of new technologies. As I said it before, and I'm going to say it again, we cannot allow an accident to be required before we do more to safeguard air transportation against unsafe and unsecure operations of UAS. Capitalizing on emerging UAS detection and mitigation technologies is essential to ensuring safe and secure air transportation. Safety and security must be paramount whenever UAS are present in the airspace. It's that simple. The topic of UAS security will lead off a packed agenda for you today, and it also includes issues such as enhancing airport security for cargo operations, a future vision of the FFDO program, and cybersecurity concerns in today's aviation environment. Time and again, ALPA has served as a thought leader for the bold innovation that has reshaped and secured the North American airline industry in the face of the unforeseen and, yes, in some cases, the unimaginable threats. We've driven new technology and safeguards that have taken air transportation a quantum leap forward in the contribution of the overall security of our country and our countries. As I hope you've read in ALPA's latest policy blueprint, We Keep America Flying, we are pursuing a broad range of security recommendations for enhancing the future of air transportation in North America. Our blueprint is available on ALPA's website, so please take a moment to look it over if you haven't had a chance yet. You'll see the initiatives including addressing security on all cargo flights, installing secondary cockpit barriers on airliners, and improving cybersecurity of the national airspace system, all rank very high among our priorities. Indeed, it is ALPA's resolute focus on security from both in air transportation and on the national level that has prompted us to call on President Trump and Congress to exempt aviation safety and security regulations from the administration's 2-for-1 executive order. When it comes to aviation safety and security, we should never apply a cookie-cutter policy. It's too risky, and it does invite some trouble. We know from history that air transportation plays an integral role in our nation's security. We also know that regulation action serves as an essential and effective in securing our skies. We certainly wouldn't be able to tolerate necessary regulations being sidelined because of this order. The administration needs to take action now by exempting the aviation safety and security rules from the 2-to-1 mandate. Recently, the Department of Homeland Security issued a directive to enhance security procedures for passengers at certain last point of departure airports on flights to the United States. It is important that these actions are coordinated with other government agencies and sectors of the industry so that we can avoid any possible unintended consequences. Aviation continues to be a target of terrorist activity, which is why ALPA works with authorities around the world to safeguard air transport. We are dedicated to helping create and execute timely, effective, and appropriate responses when intelligence warrants about potential terrorist threats. We look forward to working with the Trump administration, and specifically the Department of Homeland Security and the Transportation Security Administration, to advance what we believe to be our shared goals of fostering a secure, safe, and efficient air transportation system. ALPA will also continue to work closely with Minister Marc Garneau, Transport Canada, and the Canadian Air Transport Security Authority, all of whom play key roles in the transportation security of Canada. Enhancing aviation security is a dynamic process that must be informed by new discoveries, technological improvements, and procedural enhancements. In short, it must embrace constant innovation. This spirit of innovation is a hallmark of ALPA's work, and it's why we've gathered here today, to explore new ideas that will drive aviation security forward. I invite each of you to do even more to engage with ALPA and the experts we have gathered here to create and act on the innovative thinking that will secure aviation and, yes, our nation. I'm pleased that Congressman John Katko will be with us here today. The Congressman serves as the chairman of the House Transportation Security Subcommittee. We're also pleased that Mr. John McMulligan, Deputy Director of the National Counterterrorism Center, will be able to join us as well. But it is now my pleasure to introduce Dr. Huban Gowadia, Acting Administrator of the Transportation Security Administration. We're delighted that you're here today and able to talk with us today and take time from your busy schedule. So please join me in welcoming Acting Administrator Gowadia.
Thank you, Captain Canoll, for not just the kind introduction, nice and brief, just how I love it, and more so for that stirring call to action. It's always an honor and pleasure to be with our partners, particularly all of you. So thank you for having us here today and affording me this opportunity to represent the incredible men and women of the Transportation Security Administration. So allow me to kick this off by addressing something that we just talked about, much in the news lately, the matter of withholding personal electronic devices from cabins at 10 of our last points of departure on the way to the United States. As Captain Canoll mentioned, this is based upon evaluated intelligence information. And we are always mindful of the fact that we have to make sure that our security procedures have minimal impact on the trade and traveling public, lawful trade and traveling public. So to achieve this delicate balance for us between free trade and travel and safety of the traveling public is so important. And we do not take these measures lightly. Indeed, they are always agonizing decisions that we take only based on information and intelligence as necessary. Now, unfortunately, there's much more I could say on this topic at this time, other than to tell you that we will continue to work in close consultation with our federal partners and the intelligence community on matters of international security. We want to make sure that we have the right measures in place at the right time, at the right locations, for the right period of time. Partnerships, of course, as we've already heard, tremendously important to us at TSA, and so we have been very, very fortunate to have a very strong partnership with all of you at ALPA over the years. Earlier this month, I had a wonderful visit from some of your leaders, candid conversation. We covered a wide range of issues, mutual interest, of course, and we even discussed the potential development of a voluntary security program that might leverage information from frontline employees. At last summer's safety forum, our administrator, then Administrator Peter Neffinger, shared the agency's vision with you to reimagine transportation security as a dynamic and integrated system of interdependent actors. So conversations like we had last week and that we will continue to have this week are so important in advancing that vision. Because that system has to extend beyond our traditional security players. It must encompass industry, academia, airports, airlines, and most certainly all of you commercial pilots and crew members. Now, when we speak of aviation security, today we still talk mostly of airport perimeters, public areas, checkpoints, sterile areas. And Administrator Neffinger used to say, airports today have a lot of standing around and waiting. You wait to park, you wait to check in, you wait to go through security, you wait to get on board. That has to change because any congregation of people, as we have unfortunately had to deal with, presents a vulnerability, a soft target, if you will. So airports in the future must be about moving all the way from reservation to destination. We would like to see an almost invisible yet integrated system of distributed security with less frustration and stress for passengers and screeners, and most importantly, less vulnerability in the system as a whole. So we are thinking now more or less in terms of checkpoints, barriers, and fences, and designing a security system, an environment in which there are many partners, all operating together seamlessly. That mindset means we must now start thinking of a graduated security model, which provides more stringent checks as the passenger gets closer and closer to the aircraft. So those checks will rely on what we know about the individual, based on information we can collect when they reserve their tickets. But if you're a trusted traveler, it can even be, the information can be gathered well beforehand. So this obviously then means we have to have a seamless sharing of information across multiple nodes in the system. And to do that, we must now have a more open, secure, and interoperable architecture that will allow for increased automation and integration. By developing such an open architecture and by using risk analysis, TSA will be better positioned to understand and address capability gaps. And this in turn will ultimately lead to better, more informed requirements, so we procure and deploy the right technologies, institute the right protocols, make sure our operators and our officers are trained appropriately. So how will we accomplish all of this? One avenue for this is our Innovation Task Force, and I hope you've heard about this. We have formalized that task force into a permanent entity now. It is staffed with creative, innovative, thoughtful, and energetic people, and it provides a platform for government, industry, and entrepreneurs to collaborate with one another. I think the future holds much promise for our ITF, and if they are to make good on that promise, they will need to continue to partner with all of you and a lot of people across the world. In addition to the often cited and ongoing success of our automated screening lanes, our Innovation Task Force is leading a number of other exciting developments, and I hope you will get to see some of these systems deployed in airports shortly. For instance, we've used computer tomography or CT systems in checked baggage for many years. It affords us 3D imaging, automated screening algorithms, et cetera. Well, now there's a good chance we will have the ability to pull it up to the checkpoint, where we can get so much more information from carry-on bags in much the way as we do with our checked bags. So we have 3 demonstrations ongoing from 3 different vendors this year, and this is a technology that has much promise, and I'm quite excited about it. Another thing that I'm really excited about is our biometric authentication technology, or BAT. Can you imagine a day when your face is your boarding pass? Because that would be so much easier than trying to get a Wi-Fi connection to get your boarding pass on your mobile system, or as my dad still does, get to the airport early to print out his boarding pass. So in the biometric authentication technology, we'll either use facial or fingerprint data to identify travelers and provide the appropriate levels of screening. So can we, again, do graduated screening? The more we know about you, the less risk you pose to the system, the less you have to go through by virtue of security. Again, we're doing another proof of concept this year, so 2017 is going to be quite the hopping year for our task force, our Innovation Task Force. And we're even going to look at using avatars to help people divest themselves at checkpoints and sort of like Leia on a hologram, find ways to facilitate and lower the temperature at checkpoint designs of the future. Now, I have to confess, I am a self-professed nerd. I do enjoy these shiny whiz-bang gadgets. But that's not the only innovation we're talking about at TSA. Innovation means enculturing a creative mentality and an entrepreneurial spirit all the way through the system. So whether it's changing a standard operating procedure to make checkpoints more efficient, whether it's implementing a new innovative training technique, working with our partners to get more information from the system, from our frontline employees, anything we can do to help and facilitate security while easing up the stress and burden on our traveling public, we're willing to look at. It will involve a comprehensive overhaul of our system and culture, of course, because the challenges on the horizon only get harder and more complex. So we have also made some changes, innovative changes, on our back office functions. We will be doing acquisition differently, procurement differently, training differently. And with the help of our industry partners, we will continue to push for a more seamless and transparent security system. Now, the frontiers we have to navigate are not, and to achieve that desired end, also are geographical, not just what we see right here at home. And recently, we received a powerful impetus to strengthen and broaden the global aviation security system. With the unanimous adoption of the United Nations Security Council Resolution 2309 last fall, we now have a historic mandate and an unprecedented opportunity to work across borders to develop a common strategy, determine objectives, and establish goals for a worldwide aviation security system, sort of lifting the entire standard across the system as a whole through creative partnerships. Our aviation system, of course, and you know this well, is global in nature, and we must remain agile and responsive. It's just an inescapable fact given the adversaries we face today. Because of our vision for aviation security is both ambitious in scale and expansive in scope, again, think all the way from reservation to destination, the drive to cultivate and advance cooperation remains absolutely essential. And we cannot do it alone. TSA does not own the system. We most certainly cannot do it alone. Airlines, airports, rail operators, transit providers, trucking and shipping companies, pipeline operators, other government agencies, travelers, and you, our airline pilots, are all key players and co-owners of the system, and we together share the responsibility to secure it. Robust partnerships with stakeholders have no doubt already contributed to a more professional workforce, more capable technology, better integrated intelligence, improved operations, and greater innovation at our agency. I have been in this business for a long time, and I have always held very true to the fact that we are in a team sport. Keeping our airports and aircraft safe, enhancing our traveler experience. We can't do this if we don't have cooperative efforts. And we have a couple of successes based on our cooperative efforts. You've already heard mention of the KCM program, and we have you to thank for that. You originally proposed the successful risk-based initiative, and today, by seamlessly integrating airline employee databases, our KCM system allows officers at airports to efficiently and positively verify the identity and employment status of crew members. You guys have been vocal and energetic champions for the program, and from its inception, worked carefully and closely with our A4A partners and with us. So we really sincerely appreciate what I think is a model of a public-private collaboration. I will not go over the numbers again. Captain Canoll beat me to the punch, but they are quite impressive. And if you think about how much airline traffic is going, passengers, and the volume is growing, to be able to pull out 2.5%, 3% of that population out of the checkpoint and into, again, a known, trusted population that does not need to go through the same system, it's security-focused, risk-based, and certainly affords a better traveling experience for all. So I'm truly grateful that ALPA took to heart the concerns about the KCM integrity that we raised at our last meeting. Thank you. Thank you so much for sending out the message, because it is a privilege and we must vigilantly safeguard. So thank you for carrying forward that message. So you guys, before I forget, one of the early champions is our own Captain Eddie Manshine. Eddie and some of our TSA colleagues are going to be with you through the day today, so please don't hesitate to ask him all the difficult questions. Another success story we've had with you is our Federal Flight Deck Officer Program. You know, the FFDOs represent an important security element in the aviation system, and we must continue to make strides to give them better tools and processes so that they can continue to excel in that role. We recently approved FFDO admittance to the sterile area at U.S. airports through KCM access points. It will streamline procedures while prioritizing security, and it should be implemented next Monday. So we truly appreciate and thank the many pilots who volunteer their time and energies to patriotically serve as essentially the last line of defense in protecting the flight deck. You train on your own time, sometimes even at your own expense. And having driven from Albuquerque out to Artesia a few times, that's dedication. Your commitment and sacrifice are truly a credit to the piloting profession and a testament to our strength our partnership, the strength of our partnership. So it's a source of pride, not just for us, but I imagine it is for you as well. So, all in it together, but there are still a few challenges left we must address together. Air cargo security, for example, we need to move forward to harmonize the requirements between the air cargo and passenger domain. And we've made a lot of headway with targeted initiatives like outcome-based, the ACAS program, the air cargo security programs, and air cargo advanced screening, with TSA and Customs and Border Protection, which we've been working on together since 2010. We will continue to leverage the latest intelligence and shipment data to identify that high-risk cargo and apply additional screening measures to mitigate those risks before we put it on an aircraft. The progress and success of the ACAS program hinges on TSA and CBP working closely with industry to help develop and implement the right methodologies and strategies. With dozens of air cargo, all cargo, and passenger air carriers already on board, millions of shipments processed to date. The future is promising, but we can't afford to take our eye off that ball. Now, another partnership that has with ALPA that has reaped great rewards is our very popular TSA PreCheck program. It permits uniformed crew members with the proper identification to use PreCheck at all locations. Now, again, PreCheck is another risk-based method that we can pull out the low-risk passengers, provide them with a different security regime. It's a smart and efficient way to execute our security mission while addressing the needs of our travelers. So today we have it at 159 airports, 550 screening lanes, and over 4.4 million participants in TSA PreCheck alone. Of course, if you have global entry, that gets us up almost to 11 million trusted travelers in the system as a whole. But we must keep expanding that program. We must keep enrolling more and more people. And it's really interesting. It suddenly hit us that we are approaching that 5-year mark when the plank holders and trailblazers need email reminders to renew their PreCheck applications and membership. So with all that in mind and the need to continue to expansion, airlines are affording people to the ability to use their frequent flyer miles as well. And we are now going to start looking at certain airline employees, to include pilots certainly, who are wearing civilian clothing to use PreCheck when you're traveling on your own airline or codeshare partners, provided you have the right identification and your boarding pass is appropriately marked. Now, part of my job is to market TSA PreCheck everywhere I go. So I'm going to tell you that if your families don't have it, it's the equivalent of 3 lattes a year, and it makes for an excellent Christmas gift, birthday gift, 4th of July gift, Thanksgiving gift. Gifted. It's a gift that keeps on giving. So in closing, all these advances, they are part of a broader effort to nurture our comprehensive culture of security, not unlike our more mature safety culture. And when we met, we discussed, can we make security a little bit like breathing for you guys, because safety already is. Partners must seamlessly share the responsibility for information across the system, and we can only succeed with the commitment of partners and colleagues such as you. We must continue to think forward and marshal our collective expertise, resources, and will to meet the latest challenges. You heard about the unmanned aircraft systems and not so much on the horizon anymore already here, cyber threats. Given the experience and passion of all of you here today, I have a lot of reasons to be optimistic. So thank you again for this opportunity to be with you this morning and kick off your AVSEC conference. Have a lovely week. Bring to us lots of good ideas, because we sure as heck could use them. Thank you.
Dr. Gowadia, thank you very much for your kind remarks. I'm optimistic too. I really am. I think with our close relationship that we've had for years, and seeing that continue into the future, it gives me great hope that there's no problem we can't overcome. So in keeping with keeping the program running on time, we're going to move quickly into the next panel. So Joe, if it's up to you. And thank you again, Dr. Gowadia.
Thank you so much. Thank you.